Green Mountain Dental Group is in Lakewood, and they're the best family-owned dentist in the metro area. Plus, they're extreme Colorado sports fans, just like all of us here at DNVR. And when you schedule a cleaning, x-ray, and exam with Green Mountain Dental Group, you will get a free Sonicare toothbrush just for showing up. They're just 15 minutes outside of downtown in Lakewood, and it's a great first step to good health when it comes to taking care of your teeth. So head on down to Green Mountain Dental Group today and schedule that cleaning, x-ray, and exam to get your Sonicare toothbrush. Welcome in to the DNVR Avalanche Podcast, presented by Davidson's Beer, Wine, and Spirits. Both of their locations in Centennial and Highlands Ranch are go-to stops for Breckenridge Brewery. You can also even get beer delivered from them. I am Rudo. He is AJ. We are back again with the full list of the NHL's Masterton trophy nominees out for the league. The Avs representative being Ryan Graves, which we will get into here in just a second. But a couple of the other standouts around the league, you have Corey Crawford, Bobby Ryan, Oskar Lindblom, Stephen Johns, a handful of other names as well. But as far as the Masterton trophy, I'll put it this way. I don't think Ryan Graves has a chance to actually win it.
I would be surprised if Ryan Graves got votes.
Yeah.
Ryan Graves wasn't even a unanimous pick in the Colorado chapter.
So look, I don't want to take anything away from the guy. Obviously, Graves worked extremely hard to get where he's made it to. So he deserves all the credit in the world. But, when you have players that are coming back from significantly more hardship than just being in the AHL for a handful of years, there's bigger things going on with the Masterton trophy.
Yeah. Yeah, and this was a year where thankfully the Avalanche, this has turned into kind of like a sad story award.
Yeah, for sure.
And so thankfully, Colorado didn't have to have a great candidate here.
Right.
I say Graves was not unanimous. I was the one dissenting voice that I know of. My nomination went to Val Nichushkin, and obviously my colleagues disagreed. And so Ryan Graves is the guy.
Yeah.
And it's, again, like you said, it's not to take away from Graves or the hard work that he's put in. You don't see a lot of guys kind of go the path that he went.
Sure.
It's a lot more common. Like you see guys, there are guys in the league like Graves, but it's a guy here, a guy there.
Right. Not a ton of guys breaking into the league at age 24.
Right. After 4 years in the AHL, really, when you get to your second contract, if you finish your ELC and you haven't made the league already,
your chances drop a ton. Yeah.
Yeah, they go way down. And not only was Graves post ELC, but he's on a second franchise.
Yep.
And that's never a good thing in terms of just your raw odds to make it. It ended up being a great thing for him. He found a home. He carved out a role, took a job. And at this point, 2 years ago, had we been talking about, expansion, stuff like that, the focus would have been, how do you keep Nikita Zadorov?
Yeah.
And now Graves has almost made him expendable.
Yeah.
Just because they're such similar profiles, but Graves is way more consistent. Doesn't have the same kind of upside as Big Z, but if you're charting the effectiveness of their games, Graves is a lot more of a flat line, and Z is just a heart rate monitor. So it's great for Graves. I used today with the nominations being announced to push out the feature that I wrote on him halfway through the year. I'm sure if you cared by now, you've already read it, but it's out there again. I also made it free, so it's not behind the paywall. So if you're listening to the pod and you are not a subscriber, first of all, Hope to get you one of these days. Second of all, go read it. It's free. So
a little bit of taste of what you're missing.
Yeah. There you go.
So
So Graves is our guy.
Yeah, for sure. Be sure to check out AJ's article. He did a really good job on that one. Graves is a bit of an interesting one, as around here the Avs have been collecting all of the Eastern Canada players, as it were. But another factor to kind of his story is how few players actually come out of that region and make the NHL.
Mm-hmm.
Avs having had multiple successes there, but I think there's only 5 newfies.
From Nova Scotia, from McKinnon, Crosby, Graves, Marchand, and one more.
Yeah.
And then the Avs have 3 prospects.
Right. They have Newhook,
Newhook, Steinberg, and Bowers.
Yeah, and Steinberg. That's the other one.
Yeah.
So, I don't have the Avs found a bit of a
market inefficiency.
Yeah, something in Eastern Canada, I guess.
Yeah, going after the Maritime. That's the word I've been trying to think of.
There it is, Maritime. Yeah.
Yeah, going after the Maritimers. Hey,
it's been working for them so far. Yeah,
they're tight knit.
That's true. They got their squad out there.
Well, they all practice together. They all play together. I was talking to Gravy about it when I was doing interviews for my story, and he was telling me he was like, "Oh yeah, I know all those guys. It's great being from it's not like GTA. It's not the Greater Toronto area where you're producing an insane amount of talent every year. He says, but the
people in the city, yeah,
right. He says, but it allows you to kind of get to know the guys a little better, and you guys all sort of work together, and you all have that same pride of wanting to represent Nova Scotia well.
Yep.
It's cool.
I mean, before Bowers was even an Avs prospect, he was practicing with Crosby and McKinnon.
Yeah.
So and Marchand plays up there too. So yeah, you're exactly right that all the guys that kind of make it to that next level do seem to know each other pretty well and are always on the ice and things like that. So we'll see as things continue to expand there with Newhook and whoever's next. I guess that's when we do go back into the draft coverage, we should just do a hard search on who's coming out of Nova Scotia this year and be like, yeah, Avs will be taking him.
That's right. Probably a round or two too early.
Yep. Well, it happens.
If they turn into NHL players, you don't care.
But to get back to where we started this conversation, since you admitted to being the dissenting voice, what is your case for Val Nichushkin over Ryan Graves for the Masterton?
Well, Graves had 26 games last year where he kind of put everybody on notice, like that, hey, he maybe belongs here.
For sure.
And going into the preseason, really the only reason that we were not higher, our group was not higher on his chances to make the team was because they traditionally have liked veteran guys as much as they have, guys. And they brought in Barberio, or they had Barberio still left over, and they brought in Kevin Connaughton as well. Yep. And so it was just sort of expected, like, hey, it's tough to believe, and then Callie Rosen was also part of the Barry deal. And so it just felt like he was on the wrong end of a numbers game. And then he ended up outplaying all those dudes and staying.
Well, so had he broken out a year earlier too, because it's like, oh, he played great at the end of the season. And then Cale Makar showed up in the playoffs and bombed everyone out of the water.
You're right. And sort of like, and it was like Makar took Gerard's job, and then Gerard came back, and it was like, okay, well, now you got to slot somebody in, Barberio's got to go back out. And
right.
It just always felt like Graves was sort of on the wrong end of the numbers game here.
Yep.
But there was at least momentum towards this season's breakout. Could he handle it? Could he not? We'll see. And He did. He did a great job.
Yep.
He managed the ups and downs. He had some rough stretches. You remember he had a game with 3 penalties and just looked brutal and stayed in the lineup. The coaching staff let him work his way through some of his more problematic times, I guess. Just some of the.
I can certainly remember at least one podcast during the season where both of us agreed that maybe he should sit a game. But
yeah, well, he had 3 games in a row where he had penalties and just looked brutal.
Yep.
And we were both like, look, just give him 1 game off, put Barbs in,
reset.
And
yeah.
They didn't do it. They let him work his way through those problems. It was a big show of confidence and an opportunity for him to prove that he can work through problems and maintain the trust of the coaching staff.
Yeah. So
that was great, but my guy, with Nichushkin, you're talking about a guy, he didn't score any goals in 57 games. He's, I believe, a year younger than Graves and was just bought out by Dallas. And this was after they worked so hard to bring him back over from Russia because he had an encouraging stint right after he was drafted. His 18, 19, 20-year-old seasons. And then he goes back to the KHL because he and Lindy Ruff didn't get along. Comes back, and it just doesn't work, right? It's just a total... He gave up on himself. He wasn't working hard. He wasn't committed. They were still playing him, but he was kind of checked out. And so they just cut ties and moved on.
Had the Avs not thrown him a life jacket, he may well have gone back to Russia after that season.
Definitely. I mean, he signed in the dregs of August.
Yep.
Like he signed on, I think it was August 19th.
It was super, super late. Yeah.
And
I remember doing the show about it being like training camp is like next week or something.
Yeah. You and Andre had to do it because I was driving. I was in North Dakota when it happened.
Yeah, you were. That's right. You were at the gas station and you just
had
one angry tweet about it. I remember.
And I was just like, I was so because like that gas station is like his big truck stop, and I was like, I have grown up like loving road trips, and so I get excited about nice gas stations because like sometimes you stop in a small town and you're just like, okay, like it's just a small town, it's just a quick little, you get in and
out,
and then like there are some towns that they have like the actual, it's like a truck stop, they've got the showers for the truckers and they've got like the designated areas, and it's like a full blown like mini city almost, like it's got a very small like little ecosystem.
I worked at a truck stop for a couple of years, so
right. And so you're familiar, and like I've always thought those places were just so cool because like you can get like different things. I was just excited because I could get like a hot corn dog for the road. Like that's why I was excited, is I was like, oh, I don't have to get like a cold sandwich for $4, where you're like, oh, this could have been made 2 years ago. I don't know. And instead I was like, oh, this is like a corn dog that was on the fryers. It's been on there for like 2 hours, but whatever. And I was excited about that. And then I saw the Nichushkin thing and I was like,
hours of entertainment.
Right.
Don't
and so like
ever actually watch these though, but off-brand movies at truck stops have some of the best movie titles ever.
We should add this to Free Skate Friday.
Oh yes, we should.
Real or fake?
Truck stop movies.
Yeah, exactly. And we should go to a truck stop and grab a handful of movies and just get the titles of a bunch of them and be like,
yes,
is this a real one or do we make this one up?
I'm so in for that. Okay, we'll put that on the list for sure.
Add this. Okay, great.
All right. Anyway,
this Friday, look for that.
But yeah,
no, but that was a worthy sidebar. But with Nichushkin, for me, it just felt like this is a high pedigree player whose career is on life support. Yeah. He's coming into a loaded forward core. He's the 13th, 14th forward. He's got to work his way into the lineup. He played the first couple games of the season and then got scratched because he didn't do anything. He came back, they had a couple of injuries early on. He came back into the lineup, got his chance to kind of get comfortable, work his way in, understand what the coach's expectations were. And the process started out producing, started showing up enough. And then we were still waiting on that goal, right? Like, come on. You gotta do it eventually.
Gotta put one in, and then
he did. He scored against Toronto and just didn't look back. He scored 13 on the season.
I mean, as soon as he scored the goal, I think everybody knew more was to come.
Oh yeah, like it always when a guy's that snake bit, because he had chances.
Yep.
He'd hit posts on breakaways. He had some goalies make unbelievable, like otherworldly teleportation level saves. Where you're just like, this can't be happening.
The world has actually denied him a goal. Like it would break the universe.
Right. Like it was like Uatu was interfering with the way things should be. Yeah. And he was just like decreeing. He was like, no goals for this man. And that's so messed up.
And then he scored one, and like 3 nights later roasted Duncan Keith for his second one. And it's
and blew past him, and then puts it home easy on a breakaway, and we were all shocked.
Yeah.
And then he was off and running, and not only did he carve out a job on this team, he ended up playing in the top 6 at times. And he could be in line, like we've talked about. I wouldn't do it, but he could be in line for a multi-year extension this summer. Like this is a guy who went from the very like edge of the NHL, like barely still in the league, to this guy might get protected in the Seattle expansion next year on a cup contending team.
Yeah, it's certainly at least a conversation at this point, but
absolutely it is.
We can get a little bit more into that in the second period, as we do need to acknowledge Breckenridge Brewery, the official beer of DNVR. I'll tell you, Nichushkin has made me want to drink at times in both victory and sadness. But either way, you can pick up your Breck Brew from the farmhouse down in Littleton, almost like its own kind of. It's way cooler than a truck stop. I'm not going to lie to you, because you can actually get real good food from the farmhouse. So check it out for yourself today.
That's like real food.
Yeah, they have good stuff, and you can get $5 off when you use code DNVR. You can schedule a pickup even at 303-803-1380 from noon to 8 p.m. Give them a try. Help support our partners. And if you do want to just get your beer delivered, you can always use Drizzly or the Breck Beer Locator to find the nearest store by you. On top of this, I already told you all about my pick of the week, where I picked 2 golfers to get an eagle in a tournament. I feel pretty decent about that one. I'm not going to lie to you, but DraftKings is back here in Colorado with now legal sports betting. They are the #1 sportsbook app when it comes to the DraftKings sportsbook. You can download it now and use code DNVR when you sign up for a limited time. All new users are getting a sign-up bonus of up to $1,000. Once you check them out, they have a bunch of awesome deals. They have the odds boost, like I talk about. They'll give you missions all the time, where it's like, if you place 3 $5 bets, you'll get a free $3 bet just for participating on the app. So it's got a bunch of great deals. Cannot recommend it enough. I've been having a blast betting on KBO all the time, as well as UFC and other things as well. Just remember to use that DNVR code when you sign up to get a $1,000 bonus. Must be 21 or older. Colorado only. Bonus comprised of a first deposit bonus and first bet match, each up to $500. Deposit bonus requires 25x playthrough. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-522-4700. All right, second period of the DNVR Avalanche Podcast, presented by Davidson's Beer, Wine, and Spirits. AJ's giving me some kind of face over there. I'm not sure what to make of that one.
The NHL on NBC Sports Twitter account tweeted out your team is headed to the postseason. Who would you want in net? And it says, pick your playoff goalie 2020 postseason. And it's got 4 goalies to pick from. And they are Ben Bishop, Marc-Andre Fleury, Jordan Binnington, Pavel Francouz.
Interesting.
And so it's like, do you guys think Frankie's going to start over Grubauer when the postseason starts?
Yeah,
like in the seeding round?
In the actual playoffs?
I don't.
I don't either. I don't like, even with the strong finish that he had.
Yeah. Grubauer had a strong finish too.
Yeah,
we
until he
seem to
got hurt.
ignore.
Right. Exactly. It's just not. You brought in Grubauer to be this guy.
Yeah.
To be the starter. You can make an argument that he hasn't fully earned it, but also when you look back at things like the playoff run of last year, where especially in the first round, he played very, very well. And I just don't see how you give Frankie the inside line to that job.
I don't either.
Yeah.
I mean, look, I will say I would have Gruby starting, but it would not be a long leash because Francouz has definitely earned.
If Grubauer has a tough game or two, Francouz is probably getting in there. But
right, say you're in the seeding games, and you're Colorado's 0-2 in the seeding games, and Grubauer hasn't played particularly well. Frankie's getting game 3.
Yeah,
in my opinion, like you got to give it to him.
Why not? Well, I mean, worst case scenario, Frankie gets bombed out, and you go back to Grubauer as the 4 seed. Like,
yeah.
So
straight up, that's exactly what you do.
Yeah, it just makes sense.
And if Frankie plays well, then you just ride Frankie until he doesn't play well.
Yep. Hot hand life. So I will say, based on the 3 goalies you said, I would take all 3 of those over Francouz.
Yeah. It was just interesting because those are the 3 starting goaltenders for
the
other seeding
teams, and then Francouz. Yeah.
And then it's like Pavel Francouz, and it was just like
Someone at NBC went and looked up the last game the Avs played and was like, that must be the starting goalie.
Yeah, right. But I mean, hey, it's not like Frankie. I mean, if you just look at his statistics and you're not looking at any of the context or anything else, you don't know that like his save percentage was high all year, but none of his underlying numbers were any good until that last like 3-week stretch where all of a sudden, his quality start percentage jumped up because every start was a quality start. When you have 9 of them in a row and you only play 25 games, it turns out, okay.
It doesn't hurt the numbers either when you're for 2 months of the season, the team in front of you is making teams pack it in halfway through the game.
Yeah, he also that was something you and I had talked about was Frankie was getting unbelievable goal support.
Yep.
And so his actual win-loss record was like comical
outrageous.
because there were games like you look at the 9-4 game against Nashville where Frankie did not play. He played really poorly that day, and it just didn't matter. Like he wasn't particularly good in a number of the games in which he got wins, but the Avs got outshot by 20 because they were winning by 5 goals.
Right. They got up early and then the game was over.
Yeah.
So
like the when they played in Tampa Bay when Jost had the hat trick and like he
Tampa
ended up with like
48 shots on goal or something. Yeah.
And like at the end of the game, like the numbers looked sparkling, but you actually go back and watch that game. Like there were some great saves that he made along the way, but he like the goals that he gave up, and it was just sort of like an iffy.
There were like 30 shots from places where Tampa was just throwing it at the net.
Yeah, where it was like, hey, we're losing by 6, and we need to, whatever.
Do something, right?
Like if we're gonna come back, we have to get a little bit lucky. We can't get cute,
for sure.
And anyway, like. Whatever. Like Greg, we've gone over all of this. Frankie is dope, but there was context.
Yes, 100% agreed there. We've kind of drifted away from the topic, but I was thinking as we were explaining the Val Nichushkin kind of timeline and how he went to Russia, it reminded me of we've heard this call, and honestly, it's lessened this season, I believe, but. There was a group of people calling for Tyson Jost to spend a year in the AHL. And I wonder, does that not end up looking exactly like what Val Nichushkin did? Going to, KHL versus AHL, obviously a little bit different. But nonetheless, being in the league, having removed from it, and then trying to come back into it. I do wonder how difficult that is. for an extended period of time. Obviously, a couple of years ago when Joe spent, a handful of games down in the AHL, I thought that was fine. But to spend a full year or even two out of the league and then having to come back to it, how hard is that?
That's a good question. I would want to maybe take a look and see kind of what historically some of the guys have done. We're about to see Grigorenko give it a try.
Yeah, and with Columbus.
There have been some like really, really, really good players, like when we talked about Kovalchuk.
Those are specific cases.
Yeah, where you're like, okay, well, these guys are elite hockey players.
He left the NHL when he totally didn't have to, type of thing.
Right. He didn't leave the NHL because he ran out of jobs. He left the NHL because he wanted that money.
So, yeah, that would definitely take some research, I imagine.
Yeah, I wonder how tough that is, though. Like, I wonder what the track record looks like of guys who do start their careers. Like, okay, they play in the NHL for a couple of years, and then it's like, okay, hey, like, we still have some waiver eligibility here. Let's send him down. Let's see if he can, Matthew McConaughey pump up those numbers.
Yeah, right. Figure it out in the AHL a little bit more and come back as a better hockey player. But
yeah. With Nichushkin, though, it was a personality conflict.
Sure,
it wasn't like
he was an NHLer at the time.
Yeah,
there were some injuries that had slowed him down a bit, but yeah, there was more Lindy Ruff and his utilization in the system, and
it was just like he just didn't want to be there. And then when he came back, it felt like he still didn't really want to be there, because like that dude, he even fully admitted he gave up on himself in Dallas. Like he stopped working hard, and Dallas fans have every reason to be pissed.
Sure,
like imagine how we would feel. Okay. If
Tyson Jost comes back next year and just doesn't even try,
If Tyson Jost 2 years from now just gives up and has a contract, and the Avs are like, look, man, we just can't do this anymore. This isn't working. They buy him out. He goes, let's just switch it. He goes to freaking Dallas.
And then has a successful year.
Nice breakout season, and they're thrilled with him. And they're like, wow, we're going to give him a multi-year deal, and like we have this guy in his 20s that now we've got him for his prime, like,
and the Avs side
and like
stewing over it,
imagine how Avs fans would feel about that.
Yep,
like Dallas, because I've seen some Avs fans like go after Dallas people and be like, oh, you can't be mad at him. Like, you can absolutely be mad at that guy. Like, Val Nichushkin gave up in Dallas. Yep. And then when he got here, he wasn't like, he needed to figure out what the coach's expectations were and how to get that out of himself every day. Because he did not accomplish that in Dallas. He accomplished it here. He figured it out. And he was really good. He's also one of the biggest question marks going into returning from play.
Yep.
Because you can't have any kind of like reliable faith that he's gonna just pick up where he left off. It took a lot of building to get to that point. The hard part is, okay, if he does do it, if he does come back and he does give you that same exact strong play, I wonder if maybe you do consider giving him a multi-year deal after that, because you're like, hey, he restarted and he picked back up just fine.
It wasn't lightning in a bottle, right? Yeah.
Right. And then you're like, okay, well, this is essentially going to be an off season. It will be 3 months.
Yep.
So you're already talking about, okay, he had an off season, he comes back, he plays well, and then he's going to have another off season. You can feel like he's going to come back and play well for you. So there's a lot on the line for that guy when he comes, when hockey returns. He needs to continue to show it, especially before they get to the offseason and let Matt Nieto and Colin Wilson leave. Because right now, those guys, if he doesn't play well, those guys are going to take his job.
Straight up.
Like,
Nieto is going to be our assumed scratch of Nieto is going to be chomping at the bit to get back in the lineup. All right, we can end our second period there as MSU Denver Online puts a dynamic education at your fingertips. Maybe you're following the Nichushkin route. You went to college for a little while, you left, but now you're looking to come back, and MSU Denver is the way to do it. MSU Denver is the Colorado institution providing rigorous and affordable online programs taught by professors who bring the real world into the classroom. MSU Denver graduates use their relevant degrees to land coveted jobs, and even some of our very own staff members here at DNVR are taking classes this summer. You can even get credits for real world experience that you're bringing into the classroom and things like that as well through a number of different programs. They have over 40 different programs that are both online or in the classroom, a mix of both, however you want to set it up, with over 750 different types of classes. So give MSU Denver Online a try today. Third period of the DNVR Avalanche Podcast, presented by Davidson's with Rudo and AJ. So we've talked about the Av side of things. For what the Masterton Trophy has become, is Lindblom not just a slam dunk pick for this one this year?
I don't know. Like, who are we to tell someone that cancer versus alcoholism is like you're trying to, like, what are we gauging here? Are we just ultimately deciding one route is harder than the other?
Maybe. I mean,
like, you look at a guy like Lindblom and you're like, it's cancer. But then you're also like, oh, what's the survival rate of that cancer? And it's
pretty good,
pretty high. Yeah. And you're like, okay, so like you don't feel like his life is in like too much danger. It's cancer, so it's obviously like in question. But like you also look at something like fighting alcoholism, which is like this daily battle that even when you get on top of it, you still have to be committed to it every day. There's no curing this. There's no, oh, I'm in remission from alcoholism. You know, it is a daily grind. You know, I have watched a close family member of mine start, you know, from when I was a young age, the demons that were involved with it and the battle. And, you know, that person just celebrated, I think, 19 years being sober. And there's a reason that person is like my hero in life, because like I watched day in and day out how hard that is, and just the drain and the emotional toll it takes on that person and the people around you, the people who love you and care about you and are helping in that fight. And it's insane. Like it's ridiculous. And trying to be a professional athlete and deal with something like that and then have it be known publicly.
Yep.
You know, like you're fighting these demons and people know about it. And there are going to be a lot of people who want to think the best and want to give you love and want to be supportive. There's also going to be people who are just assholes at every single turn. And they're not going to be nice about it, and they're not going to be respectful. They're going to say all kinds of really, really nasty stuff. And, you know, it's hard when you're fragile like that. It's hard to have somebody lean on you like that. And it's, you know, and then of course the way that Bobby Ryan came back.
Yeah.
With the hat trick and all of that. I mean, it's just such
his name, a special moment in the season, certainly.
And like Bobby Ryan has had such a complicated life.
If you don't know his story, I think it's on Sportsnet. There's a written piece out of his life, and just go read it because it's actually insane.
There needs to be someday. There's going to be a 30 for 30 on it on
straight up
the career of Bobby Ryan.
It's legitimately a crazy story, and then his success.
Well, a crazy story, and then he ends up the guy picked after Sidney Crosby and has to deal with that his whole career.
It has a very strong start to his career. Gets a massive contract that, for a long time has been regarded one of the worst contracts in the league. Breaks his hand like 3 times in one season.
Well, and that was his best strength. That was his hands, and it was obvious that when the suffering the broken hands cost him a little bit of that skill.
Yep.
And in like just a really interesting, fascinating existence. You know, his career has just been so interesting. And then to see him come back from all of this, like he just, you know, whether you agree with certain viewpoints that he has expressed in the past, like to overcome demons like that, I feel like you just at some point you tip your cap and you say, okay, respect.
That dude keeps coming back.
Yeah. And like with Lindblom, it's obviously like it's all love there. You're only rooting for the guy.
Of course.
You want to get better as somebody who's gone through has gone through cancer and chemo, and like the process it's awful, and surgery is awful. The drugs are great. Everything else is awful.
You're 5.5 years clear now?
What is it? 2020?
Yeah.
Oh geez. I actually it was 7 years now.
7 years. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
Is that the right? I don't know if that's what you're supposed to say, but
once you get clear of 5, it's just
you're pretty good. Yeah.
I forgot this year.
There you go.
I totally. It was 5 because I remember it was 5 years. I got to the 5-year mark, just as the Avs and Preds were getting going in the postseason 2 years ago.
Yeah, I remember. I think you told that story in Discord once.
Yeah. Well, and then there were some things that happened at the arena that got me all misty-eyed, but we'll keep that on the down low
for sure. Anyway, getting back into the topic, I'm assuming you're voting for Lindblom and Ryan as 2 of your votes.
Yeah. So this is the one thing I'm allowed to vote on, since I was one of the like 60% of the PHWA that didn't get an actual awards ballot. The Masterton is the thing I'm allowed to vote on. Cool.
Okay.
Yeah. Like, all right. Those 2 will definitely have 2 of the votes.
And so you get a third one, correct?
Yeah. You have to vote for 3 of them.
So you got a whole 29 other players that you could put in that spot.
Yeah. Let me look at this list again.
Yep.
I've spent like most of the morning looking at it,
trying to make your decisions.
Yeah, because like there are some, you know, like Travis Zajac has had like a, you know, it's been a long road. Zach Hyman had a devastating knee injury.
Yep.
Some of these I'm less familiar with. I'm not sure what Jonathan Quick came back from.
Yeah,
I'm not sure what's up. I have no idea what Evgeny Malkin's been dealing with.
It seems like
it feels like Joe Thornton's on here because he's old.
Yep, sure does.
But what if there's something else? I don't know. So like there are some of these that I'm less familiar with, even when I went and read like the little biographies that each of the chapters provide.
Yeah.
I'm sort of like, I think Robbie Fabri, I mean, do you remember Robbie Fabri was like
he was
going to be a
time. Yeah.
He was going to be a star in St. Louis.
And it just never came together.
And it was like knee injury after knee injury after knee injury. And they finally trade him. He goes to Detroit. He gets healthy, gets a fresh start, and he actually starts to find some success and look like the guy that he was supposed to be. So Robbie Fabry's got to be in there. I mean, Jay Bouwmeester, you have to feel good about because the guy died during a game.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to take anything away from Jay Bouwmeester and, you know, obviously the recovery that he's been going through, but
yeah,
does the Masterton Trophy imply that you have to return to hockey? Because I think there's a very good chance that Bouwmeester does not.
Well, that's why he's on this year's list and not next.
Fair.
So that's really all. That's my view on that. The other one that really stands out here to me is Stephen Johns. It's been
typical picking the Texas player. Typical. Yeah. There's a good case for this one, though.
That's life. Yeah, Stephen Johns. Yeah, he's been out of commission for a couple of years now, and has really been trying to fight his way back in. And it's been, I mean, Stephen Johns reminded me how lucky the Avs got with Connor Timmins.
Yeah, with because the issues, sure.
Yeah, because same thing, right? They both were dealing with concussions, but Timmins missed a full season, and to be honest with you, he would have been fine to play. He would have been totally cleared to play. They were just being extra cautious. But say they were making like a cup run or something, he would have been totally cleared to play.
Yeah,
had he been part of like that sort of thing, because there was nothing like that going on. It wasn't a big deal, and they were just like, "Hey, just sit out the whole season."
Why risk it? Yeah,
Stephen Johns was out for 2 years.
Yep,
dealing with this, and reminded me a lot of Joey Hishin as well, and how Joey Hishin got robbed of the Masterton nomination back then.
Yep,
and Stephen Johns is that he came back because he was a top prospect. He was a high draft pick, a top prospect, had a very bright future, and then that was it. You know, got the concussion. Yeah, got the concussion, out for 2 years. Dallas got him back, and looks like it's full steam ahead for him. And just, I'm just hoping it stays that way.
For sure. You never want to see anyone's career cut short.
No,
that's never a good feeling.
Definitely.
So,
and these are all guys that had things happen to them.
Yep.
And they came back, and this is kind of why I said, you know, Colorado didn't really have a.
This
isn't an award like you want your guy to win.
That means that they had to go through some serious hardship, not only on the ice but off it.
Yeah. I mean, I guess we could have nominated Connor Timmins too. He had 2 NHL games.
He did play 2 NHL games. That's true.
I didn't think of it until just now, but yeah.
I mean, I don't think the Avs, no matter who they nominated, would have gotten many, if any, votes. So
yeah, and that's okay in this one,
right?
You know, this is not like putting Elias Pettersson third ahead of Nathan McKinnon on the Hart ballot. This is not a crime against logic and sanity.
Yeah, definitely. It's not an award that you can statistically dive into so much.
Yeah.
So
boy, that'd be messed up. Like, you get into like cancer recovery rates, and you're just like, this is too deep. Yeah, don't like this.
That ain't it. That ain't it. What we need for the NHL awards, I don't think.
Yeah.
Either way, that's kind of the news of the day. The award that's being talked about and voted on currently. I know a lot of people are putting their cases for whoever out there for the Masterton today. So, yeah. Any final thoughts NHL wide, AJ? We don't have to stick to the Masterton, I suppose.
No, man, I have to go talk baseball.
Oh, yeah, that's right. We do have that coming up tomorrow. We will be doing the MLB drafts Wednesday and Thursday evenings. So I'll be running the board behind everything. AJ will be on there trying to sell us all on probably Zach Veen. I don't know. Either way, please tune in. You can listen to the sultry voice of Drew Kreisman and Patrick Lyons and many guests that we plan to have on. Hope y'all will enjoy it. We're out of here for the day. Thank you for listening as always, and we will catch you tomorrow. Before we go, though, be sure, look, the difference in baseball between a boy and a man is when you get drafted. That's all I'm saying. And when you get drafted, you want to make sure your package is looking good. Manscaped can help you take that next step. Even if you're not getting drafted, behind the scenes, wherever you are, just watching it, be sure you're feeling good below the belt, because Manscaped has you covered with their perfect package 3.0, whether it be the Lawnmower 3.0 trimmer, the spray-on toner to keep everything fresh, or the anti-chafe deodorant. It is getting into those hot months of the year where, you know, you start to sweat down there, and you got to keep things clean. You got to keep things smelling right. So Manscaped has you covered with all of that, and you get it all coming in their travel bag, which is really nice. Keeps everything in its exact spot where it needs to be and makes it easy to do what you got to do on the go. Head on over to manscaped.com and use code DNVR20 to get 20% off and free shipping to get the best tools for the job.